I have great joy in talking about giving. This is the season, and we have Rebecca Silber, the annual giving officer for the Rotary Foundation. She's with us today. She's over zones 30 and 31, and she volunteered to help us out as we talk about the foundation, and she's built bridges between Rotarians and the foundation. And I'm going to let Rebecca take it away.
Thank you so much, Dr. McGregor. I am so excited to be here. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen, and you all can let me know. Hopefully that'll work. See? Great. Is everybody seeing that?
Yes, we do.
Fantastic. Always nice to have some kind of confirmation there. So yes, so as your club president, as Dr. McGregor said, I'm Rebecca Silber. I am the annual giving officer working with zones 30 and 31, and you all are of the most east district that I work with. So you can see on this map, I work with from Ohio, you guys, all the way down to Alabama, over to Louisiana, up to Missouri, with little bits of Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas in there as well. And if you're not aware, that area, those two zones together are called the Heart of America. So a fantastic area to work with. I'm very, very, very lucky to work with you all. And so yes, so as the annual giving officer for those zones, I work to, of course, raise funds for the Rotary Foundation, but mostly I work to help you all get to kind of, you know, your passion for giving, hopefully, and to help you enable yourselves and your clubs and your districts to really do some great work. So that's why I'm joining you here today. And so I also really enjoyed your invocation today, Connor, and really focusing on being thankful. So I get the great honor, it's one of my favorite parts of my job of always working in fundraising, that I get to say thank you to people. So you'll hear me say it a few times today, but it's even more special to me because, you know, we're in this time of Thanksgiving. So again, thank you for all you do. My cat's about to join us, sorry. I'm gonna put her down, poor thing. She's been a little sick recently. So yes, so basically what I do is I work with your zones to raise funds. So thank you for all you're doing, and thank you for continuing to be really great leaders in your Akron community, of course, in Ohio as well. And I'm sure, and I know some of you probably have some global grant experience as well. So thank you for all you do, not just in your area in Akron, but around the world as well. So to start off, I always like to talk about Rotary Foundation's mission, and that is to enable Rotarians like you to advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace through the improvement of health, the support of education, and the alleviation of poverty. And really the reason I like to talk about Rotary Foundation's mission is because I think that it's incredibly important to focus on those words, enable Rotarians. So really, it's all about making sure that your dollars are going towards issues and towards programs and grants that you feel are most important to your work and to your communities. So I also like to start kind of my presentations, especially nowadays. Obviously, I work for the Rotary Foundation and I work to do fundraising, but we are in an incredibly difficult time with, of course, COVID and with, you know, working from home, most of us, hopefully, if you can. I know that a lot of everybody actually is facing challenges that we've just not faced before. So while I'm going to talk about fundraising, while I'm going to talk about the work that you all can do in your communities, I also just wanted to kind of put that out there and say we're thankful for all of the work you've already done, all of the contributions you've already made, and we're thankful for that, but also just wanted to put that out there. So moving on, I also like to talk about areas of focus. So in support of the mission, the Rotary Foundation is dedicated to 6 overarching areas of focused causes. And they are providing clean water, sanitation and hygiene, fighting disease, supporting education, saving mothers and children, promoting peace, and growing local economies. And while you will not see it on here, we are adding a 7th area of focus. It will officially be added for real on July 1, and that's supporting the environment. And so I think it's important to talk about the areas of focus, because I think it's incredible that Rotary has identified these areas of focus as a way to make sure that funds are dedicated to the issues that we've all agreed need the most focus, if you will, and all of these problems that need solving. I think that these areas of focus are great because they guide everything we do and make the Rotary Foundation, and of course the work that you all are doing as Rotarians, even more impactful because it is so focused. And today I like to talk about, actually every time I present to groups like yours, I like to talk about kind of focusing on what you are most passionate about individually, as a club, in your district, whatever the case may be, but especially right now thinking about what you personally are most passionate about. What keeps you engaged in your Rotary work? You all have a fantastic, large club, and I know sometimes it might be a little bit difficult to sign on or come to your meetings, but when you do, I mean you guys actually, I've been very impressed by your camaraderie so far, but when you do show up, why do you show up? What keeps you bringing you back to your Rotary service? And so hopefully there's an area of focus or a passion that you connect with that really keeps you engaged in your club and your Rotary work, and hopefully in giving to the foundation as well. So whatever your passion might be, whatever your area of focus might be, I hope you can see that there is something for everyone in the Rotary Foundation. There's some way for you to put your really great efforts to work. So that's another reason why I like to talk about areas of focus. And then, so the Rotary Foundation, and I'm going to go ahead and say, I think you all, I've looked at your club reports, and you're all very generous. You're a generous club. So I'm hoping that this is maybe a review for some of you, and if it's not, hopefully some new information for some of you as well. So the Rotary Foundation has a whole host of ways that you can, make your dollars kind of be put to work. And so the ways to get to the Rotary Foundation are on the screen. There's annual fund share, which I'm hoping you all are familiar with. And this is the primary source of funding for local and international activities. And through that share program, it's a 3-year program where you give your dollars and then they're invested. And 3 years later, they spin off what is called DDF, District Designated Funds. So DDF is really what is put to work for those district and global grants. And then there's the World Fund, which is also funded by that 3-year share program. And the World Fund supports grants, specifically global grants, and projects that are available to all districts. So annual fund share, it's something I think you should all keep in mind. I think most, if not all of you, are already contributing there, but it's just really important for those district designated funds. And then, of course, there's Polio Plus Fund. Polio eradication continues to be one of Rotary's top philanthropic priorities. And in case you're not aware, we've been, really plugging away at polio eradication since the 1980s. And since then, more than 2.5 billion children have been immunized against polio, and the incidence of polio has been decreased by 99.9%. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later, but I always like to bring that up as obviously, especially with this Cleveland Indians raffle that I'm a little bit jealous you guys have all done. You all are doing some really great work with your dollars towards polio eradication. And then on here, you'll also see I have Disaster Response Fund, which is a fairly new fund that we raise funds for. And that funds grants that meet immediate needs related usually to natural disasters. However, at the beginning of COVID, back in March, we did make the decision to make disaster response funds available for grants related to COVID activities. And then I was able to join your 6630 foundation gala or foundation evening recently. Goodness, it feels like it was only a few days ago, but it was Thursday, wasn't it? And I saw that you all were involved in one of those disaster response grants. So I'm really appreciative that you banded together with your fellow 6630 members. And I saw that you got some really very much needed PPE to the children's hospital in your area. So just one of the ways that you all have really done great work already in your district and continue to do so. So thank you. And then we have our endowment fund. And so gifts to the endowment fund are invested in perpetuity, and then the earnings from those gifts are spun off into dollars that go back to funding all kinds of projects around the world. And I also like to mention the endowment fund because a lot of Rotarians, when they make plans with their estates, they do choose to make gifts to the endowment fund, really to make sure that their values as Rotarians are known to their family in their plans. So I hope you see that there are just a myriad of ways to give to the foundation. And again, hopefully when you see all of these different ways, you maybe identify one that really sticks out to you as a way that you want to make your passions known through your dollars and through your work. And then I actually have a little bit of an update. Very recently, I was able to join in on a call, and they were talking about global grants, district grants, and the COVID-19 grants from 2019-20. And so that was our last Rotary year. And so that was, it lines up to that fiscal year, that July 1 to June 30. So in 2019-20, there were 1,359 global grants for the entire year. And I think it's interesting because actually year to date this year, we already have 995 global grants that have been approved. And I think it's interesting because the comparison is last year, this time, we only had 444 global grants that had been approved by this time. So I bring this up because Rotarians around the world are really, digging in more than ever and making sure that they're, not just their districts, but of course the entire world is taken care of. So even with COVID, people are really just, again, getting to work. Rotarians completely impress me and blow me out of the water every day. And this is just one of those things that I was absolutely astonished to learn last week. And then just to also give you a little bit more information, the top countries that received global grants last year were India, Taiwan, the Philippines, Thailand, and Brazil. And then the top areas of focus for global grants last year, the top one was disease prevention, followed by water and sanitation, and then growing local economies. And then last year also, to give you an idea of district grants, there were 490 district grants, making up $35 million in total funding. And this is always a statistic that also impresses me. The top country that receives district grants is the United States of America. Last year, that was with 141 grants, and then followed by Japan, actually with 34 district grants, and then followed by India and Australia. And I like to bring that up because I know that some Rotarians are concerned that, I give to the annual fund share program, but all of these global grants are happening, and I really want to make sure dollars are spent in my district. Well, great news, in the United States of America, that actually is happening more than anywhere else. So just like to bring that up. And then also I wanted to talk about COVID-19 grants. So last year, actually $24 million were spent on COVID-19 related grants. And that was actually just through that global grants part of our grants program. There was an additional $7 million spent through that disaster response grant program. So again, lots of great work. None of this happens without really great efforts by Rotarians like you. So I love talking about the grants that are out, that are being done in your communities and around the world. And then I love talking about recognition. Again, the season of thanks. So you all are a really well represented group. I know you have had some Arch Clump Society members. You definitely have some major donors. You have some Bequest Society members. Definitely tons of Paul Harris Fellows, Paul Harris Society members. And I love talking more. If you'd like to know more about each of these levels, I'm happy to do so. I know we have some time for questions at the end, but really, we give away these pins and these pennants and certificates and all types of things. And I know you all are able to award, Paul Harris Fellows to each other as well. And I bring this up because I think it's important, of course, not just to make sure your dollars are being put to an organization that you enjoy supporting, but I think it's important that we also say thank you. So all of those bits of recognition, as we call them, they might just be a pin or it might just be a pennant, but I hope that when you wear it with pride, knowing that we say thank you. And I hope you also wear it to inspire others to give and to inspire others to maybe question you and say, oh, what's that chevron? Dr. McGregor, why do you have that on your lapel? And you can say, I'm a proud Paul Harris Society member. And that's because I've, committed to giving $1,000 per year. So I know that Rotarians are very, very interested in learning from one another. So I love when people wear their pins and their pennants. So thank you. And then a little bit more about recognition. we do have club recognition banners in the foundation. And so you all can talk together. I know you have a large club with lots of great activity going on. So you can talk about, your goals as far as whether you want to be a 100% foundation giving club, which is $25 per member to base almost all of the different funds, except for, I believe, endowment, and then $100 per capita. And then there's the every Rotarian every year club banner, which is at least $25 per member going to annual fund with another $100 per capita in that area. There's 100% Paul Harris Fellow Club, which I'm always very happy to help clubs work towards. You can do it through, matching points or through making sure you've all contributed that $1,000. And then the 100% Paul Harris Society Club is an interesting one. Not only do you have to commit each of you to being Paul Harris Society members, but you also have to make sure you've given that year. And I learned recently that it's like 3 clubs every year that get that really very, high ranking banner. So I was absolutely blown away that that's a number that small, but I think it's a really great kind of commitment that a club can make. But again, it's something that you all should talk about together as far as your goals are concerned. And so, yes, so I said I would talk more about polio. So here we are. So top left of this slide, you'll see the countries where polio was endemic when we began our fight in the 1980s. So of course that map's lit up with quite a bit of red. And then down at the bottom right, you'll see the countries that we are currently endemic for wild polio. So that currently is Afghanistan and Pakistan. And I was very happy very recently to remove a little red bit from Africa, from Nigeria, right here. I don't know if you can see my my pointer, but yes, until very recently, Nigeria was endemic, which meant the entire African region had not been certified wild polio virus free. So that last October 24th, when we celebrated World Polio Day, we were celebrating quite a few things. We were celebrating, of course, the hard work that's been done since the 1980s to rid the world of polio that has been incredibly successful. We've got those 2 countries holding out, and we're working very hard on those. But of course, the African region being certified polio free. And then also back in 2019, one of the wild polio virus types was actually certified eradicated from the world. So we're only down to 1 wild polio virus type. So I bring this up for another reason as well. And that's because your fight against polio has actually led the way for some great work to be done for COVID as well. So there has been surveillance done for COVID-19 that was actually done using the systems that we've set in place because of polio eradication. So things like that, healthcare workers who have been educated because of Rotary scholarships. And then, of course, healthcare systems and hospitals that have been set up with polio dollars originally that have then been, made useful to communities because of polio grants. So I just wanted to bring that up because, we call it Polio Plus for a reason. It's not just, the immunization of these children, which of course is very important, but it's kind of all of the other support systems that then are set in place because of dollars that you've raised. So thank you so much. Oh, and actually, I also like to always give an update on numbers. And so as of last week, as of last Wednesday, there were 135 cases of wild polio virus between Afghanistan and Pakistan. So we're getting to the end of the year. So I'm very hopeful that our number will continue to be, in that 130, maybe 140, hopefully not though, level, which would be a decrease from last year when it was 165 cases of wild polio virus that were reported. And then I always like to talk about kind of, especially nowadays, I really appreciate everybody staying connected. I very much, Rotary in general, since we're very, very passionate, of course, about disease prevention, we very much appreciate you meeting online. You are continuing to do your great Rotary work, but of course doing it in a different way, especially with your annual meeting coming up. I love hearing that you've added that to your bylaws as something that's kind of protected as a Zoom meeting. So yes, thank you for doing that. Thank you for staying connected. I know, of course, we want to be together at this time, especially during the Thanksgiving and holiday season, but of course, being safe is even more important. So thank you for continuing to be safe. And I just wanted to bring up myrotary.org. So if you don't have a My Rotary account, I definitely recommend signing in. You can always sign in there and check on your own donor status, your own donor history report. And when you make contributions, if you're signed into myrotary.org, all of your Paul Harris Fellow points are tracked there. So you can always keep an eye on that. And then Jim Lechko is not, I don't think he's, on the call anymore, but he and I had been talking about Rotary Direct. So that's your recurring giving, or our recurring giving program that you can give through. You can log in on myrotary.org to do that, or you can call our support center. There's also a paper form that you can fill out. And that's just a way to, to make sure you're on track for whatever your giving goals are. So you can give monthly, you can give quarterly, you can give yearly on my Rotary Direct through myrotary.org. And so I think it makes it very simple. I'm on Rotary Direct, and I go in and I increase my giving from time to time, but I also make sure that my credit card's up to date and all of that. And then if you're not aware, we have a brand new platform called Raise for Rotary. And you can use that to raise funds from your family, your friends, your network. If you've got a birthday coming up or an anniversary or some other kind of celebratory event, you can always, raise funds through Raise for Rotary. And so that information is there. And then Giving Tuesday is coming up on December 1, so just next week. And that is not just a Rotary event, if you will, but it's a lot of charities do participate in that. And that's just a way to get the word out. Of course, when you're giving your gifts, it's also really easy to go on Giving Tuesday, or go on, Rotary.org, and just celebrate Giving Tuesday that way. There's a whole, Give the Gift of Rotary campaign if you want to give, a gift of a contribution in somebody's name. So always like to talk about that. And then last but not least, Rotary Support Center is your best friend. That is a team of my colleagues who are award-winning customer service professionals, and they can answer any question, whether it's foundation related or just general Rotary related questions. So their information is there as well. And so as I wrap up, I always like to talk about Charity Navigator. Rotary Foundation we've got top marks, we've got 4 stars. Apparently we've got 100%, I recently checked, which just means that we make sure that we steward your funds and spend your funds in a way that is, of course, ethical, but also transparent. So we're top 10% of organizations who are rated by Charity Navigator, because we've had a 4-star rating, not just 10 years in a row, that's that top 1%. We've actually had that same 4-star rating for 12 consecutive years. So we've got top marks for that. I think Rotary in general is top marks for everything. I might be a little bit biased, but we are especially top ranked by Charity Navigator with those 4 stars. So I always like to talk about that. And then finally, of course, like I said, one of my great joys is to say thank you. So I just want you all to just take a moment and just maybe reflect on not just what makes you happy and what makes you thankful to be a Rotarian, but I also want you to reflect on all of the great you've done in your community in Akron. If you're involved in a global grant, think about, the people who are thankful for you, for the work that you've done, for those dollars you've raised, and for those grants that you've participated in. I like to take a moment and say, those people might not be able to be here right now and say thank you. So that's what I'm here for. So thank you for all you do. Thank you for supporting each other in this very difficult time. And just thankful. I'm very thankful today. So yeah. And if you have any questions, I am happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. We have some within our own, as you mentioned, we do have some Arch Clump Society members with
Yes.
Vivian and Jack Herrig and John Daly. I hope I'm not leaving anybody else out, but we're grateful to have those dignitaries in that group. So thank you, the 3 of you. Are there any questions? So Rebecca, while we look for questions, and I guess Karen, you're going to be looking at the monitoring the chat room.
Yep.
And we neglected to introduce guests as well. So as we wait for questions to come in, I want to make sure, Karen, you have a chance to just introduce the guests that I was so so compelled to get the bylaws through and then realized we were a little bit out of time. So that's why I've varied a little bit. But do you have guests that you want to thank for coming since we can't?
Well, Jim Lechko, who's our district foundation chair, was on, but he had to jump off. But I don't believe we have any other guests.
I thought Julie Brandel had a guest. No?
Yes, I do.
Oh,
Steve
okay.
Bozard, I think he's still here. He's with Coleman Professional Services. He was a guest of mine, I think last week or the week before. Steve, if you want to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Julie. Yeah, I'm glad to see everyone. I know a lot of you already, so I'm been pleased to be a guest the last couple of weeks of Julie's, and would be very interested in joining your club at some point here when the time is right. And I know the great work you do. I've participated in the Chile Open many times, and I just love the Akron community and love to be involved. So thank you for having me. And Dr. Rob, Tom Horowitz's friend, if I need to remember.
Okay. That's great. I knew your name, and I was like, why do I know that name? Thank you.
There you go.
Well, welcome, and we look forward to having you pursue membership here.
Thank you.
Any other guests? Okay, well, let's switch back and ask our speakers some questions, and I'll lead us off if there aren't any in there, Karen. What's happened? Have you seen any impact of this virtual year on the giving dollars, or is that not obvious yet?
Sure. So we just wrapped up that 2019-20 Rotary year, if you will, which of course had March, April, May, and June in it. So the first kind of 4 months of COVID in there. And surprisingly, and I say surprisingly because this hasn't necessarily been the case across all organizations or all charities, if you will, but surprisingly, we've been about flat. So I mean, we've been pretty pleased by that. Of course, you always want to go way above and beyond, but we're taking it. So, and actually overall, we raised $408 million last year, which is technically way more than we've ever raised before. But I say flat because of annual fund, for instance, those annual fund dollars unfortunately did go down a little bit last year. So, there's making up with total giving, but we do still want to make sure to raise funds for annual funds so that you all can do your district and global grants.
Karen, I put a question in the chat box. I don't know if you saw it. Someone asked me, Rebecca, if you would be kind enough to share your PowerPoint. I know this meeting is being recorded, but if you could send that, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Sorry, Cheryl. I thought that was a question for the speaker privately. I didn't realize that was.
Jack Herrick has a comment.
Get unmuted. I just wanted to comment of the credibility of the foundation, and it goes well beyond the paid staff and administration. Every project that is done anywhere in the world is monitored by Rotarians, and it's been quite a number of years ago now, but the foundation started a program that looked at sustainability, so that when you make an investment in the foundation, whether it's annual fund or it's the permanent fund, your money is not only safe, but it's invested and monitored by people just like you. And I think that that's one of the things that gives such credibility to the foundation.
Yes, thank you. And I think that also speaks to kind of a greater kind of not theme, but a greater quality or value that we have at Rotary of not just stewarding your funds and making sure they're put to work in a way that's ethical and transparent. But there's something else that I really enjoy about Rotary in that the programs are all, when you do a global grant, you have to partner with a district in the area where you're doing that global grant. So I think a great part of Rotary Global Grants is you don't just go in and say, oh, we think you need water, filtration. No, you also talk to those people there and say, hey, do you need water filtration? What's the best way to get this to you? And how is it going to be sustainable, for many, 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 many years to come? So I've only actually worked at Rotary for 2.5 years. I've worked in fundraising for over a decade, and really it's been absolutely impressive to me the way that Rotarians and Rotary make sure that dollars are spent not just to make you all feel good, but then to really make the community that's benefiting from it part of that grant and part of that work to make sure it goes for years and years to come. So thank you for sharing, and thank you for your support.
Well, thank you, Rebecca. As Cheryl said at the beginning, we do keep our lines open here for the next 15 minutes, and you're welcome to stick around if your schedule allows. And you're welcome to join us any week on a Tuesday at noon. I'm sure you're Zooming all over the place. There are a couple other announcements that I wanted to make. Birthdays in the next week would be Katie Miller, 11/25, and she's 25 on the 25th. That's a special birthday, right?
If I was 25 on the 25th, I'd be super, super happy, but let's double it and add a little couple numbers to that. So
that's okay. That's okay. And then our joint date anniversaries, Mary Weaver on Katie's birthday will be a member for 12 years. Doug Cole on the day after is 35 years. And Christina Horak the following day is 2 years. So happy anniversary to all our colleagues there. So as we wrap up, I know that that my day job puts me in charge of the COVID operation at Akron Children's, and the data is pretty sobering right now. We've not yet admitted adults, but we are preparing to take overflow from our adult colleagues. The regional hospitals are full. 1 out of 3 ICU patients has COVID. 1 out of 4 hospitalized patients has COVID. So we've seen movement from patients from the south up to the lake, and we've actually had to move patients across the other areas of the state to the Columbus area and over to Youngstown. So again, this is totally apolitical. It's just looking at self-centered at my view of the world. I really want you guys to be careful. And while a Zoom Thanksgiving is different, it's better than an ICU Christmas. So please stay well, wear your mask, and I'm going to enjoy pumpkin pie. The rest of you can have your stuffing. So with that, I'm going to end the meeting. I'll flip my camera around, and then please stick around. I'll show the bell. Oh, and congratulations to my friends that are Browns fans, and to my friends that are Steeler fans. So have a great day, great Thanksgiving. We are adjourned.